This is Freedom Global News.
Independent National Electoral Commission rejects party's plea to extend timeline for primaries. Senate amends Electoral Act to allow statutory delegates vote at party congresses and primaries. Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria warns federal government of imminent petrol scarcity if 500 billion naira bridging claims are not paid. And on the foreign scene, United States official warns of prolonged Russia-Ukraine war.
This is Freedom Global News.
Good evening, you listen to Freedom Global News on 99.5 FM. I am Hauwa Adamu Kiyawa. Today is the 10th of May, 2022, which is equivalent to the 9th of Shawwal, 1443 after Hijri. And now the news in full. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has rejected an appeal by the 18 registered political parties through the Inter-Party Advisory Council for an extension of the deadline for the conduct of party primaries. The parties made the appeal today at INEC's second quarterly consultative meeting with political parties in 2022. INEC had reviewed its schedules for the 2023 general elections in February after President Muhammadu Buhari assented to the Electoral Act 2022. In compliance with the new legislation, the Commission earmarked April 4th to June 3rd for the conduct of party primaries. Last week, the Commission had maintained that the deadline for the conduct of primaries remain firm and fixed. Speaking at the meeting today, Yabagi Sani, who is the IPAC chairman, highlighted the Easter and Eid al-Fitr holidays and distractions due to preparations for the Ekiti and Osun elections as reasons for seeking the deadline extension. The Senate today amended the Electoral Act 2022 to allow statutory delegates, all those elected, to participate and vote in the conventions, congresses, or meetings of political parties. This followed the expeditious consideration of a bill during plenary, which scaled first, second, and third readings, respectively, and was passed by the lawmakers after consideration by the Committee of the Whole. Those identified as statutory delegates include the President, Vice President, members of the National Assembly, governors and their deputies, members of the State House of Assembly, chairmen of councils, councillors, and National Working Committee of political parties, among others. In his presentation, the Deputy Senate President, Ove Omoagege, who sponsored the bill to amend the 2022 Electoral Act number 13, said it seeks to amend the provision of Section 84, subsection 8 of the law. According to him, the provision of the section does not provide for the participation of what is generally known as statutory delegates in the conventions, congresses, or meetings of political parties. Former governor of Anambra State and vice presidential candidate of PDP in 2019, Mr. Peter Obi, has started his tour of the North to meet with PDP delegates. Obi met with PDP delegates in Bauchi, Borno, Yobe, and Gombe states on Sunday, 8th May 2022, and delegates in Plateau and Taraba states yesterday, 9th May 2022. Delegates of Yobe State joined their Borno counterparts in Maiduguri for consultation. While in Bauchi, Peter Obi took time to visit the tomb of Malam Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, where he noted that it was worthwhile to pay tribute to the memory of people that sacrificed for the country. Speaking on reckless borrowing that has become the hallmark of present-day Nigeria, Obi said though Tafawa Balewa was the first to borrow, it was clearly to build Kainji Dam, which is still working many decades after. Peter Obi called for Tafawa Balewa's emulation, noting that nothing was bad with borrowing, but that it should be specifically used for production and not for consumption, as the country witnesses today. And in the sporting arena, the Presidential Investigative Committee on the Vandalism of the Moshood Abiola National Stadium submitted its report to the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare. Correspondent Sunusi Shaibu Musa has details of this and other sports updates.
In his submission, the chairman of the committee, retired DIG Sani Muhammad, thanked the federal government through the Minister of Youth and Sport Development, Sunday Jari, for finding the committee members worthy of the assignment, stating the committee adhered strictly to the terms of reference and did its utmost to make far-reaching recommendations. The chairman revealed that in the course of their assignment, the committee undertook a physical inspection of the stadium and went through the investigation adopting standard best practices. He advised that in subsequent committees of similar jurisdiction, the terms of reference should include powers to investigate any other incidental matter relating to the subject matter. The minister, in his response after receiving the reports, thanked the committee for the extensive nature of their work, which he stated is very impressive. He promised full implementation of the report, while emphasizing its recommendations to serve as a new standard operating procedure for the ministry and Nigerian Football Federation in planning for future events. Restating his resolve to sanction the culprit of the vandalism, Dare assured that where they are identified in the report, the full weight of the law will be brought upon them to serve as a deterrent. The minister, though regretting the fine imposed on Nigeria as a result of the vandalism, expressed satisfaction that the stadium was not banned as it is built to play host of Nigeria's first game of the 2023 African Cup of Nations qualifies in early June. Meanwhile, President of Nigerian Football Federation, Amaju Melvin Phoenix, said the federation might appeal people's ruling to pay former Super Eagles coach Ghana through over 156 million in compensation after the federation parted ways with the Franco-German last December. The World Football Governing Body ordered the NFF to pay Rowe the money within 45 days after ending his contract abruptly 5 months ago. In another development, the Nigerian Football Federation, after a meeting with the Ministry of Youth and Sport Development, has rolled out plans to conduct interviews with prospective candidates for the vacant Super Eagles coaching role with a view into getting the best possible candidate as Eagles manager. A communique issued by the Federation stated that the interviews will be conducted in the coming days and the appointment will be made at the end of the process. And in unboxing, American boxer promoter Floyd Mayweather said he plans to establish a boxing academy in Africa, especially in Nigeria, to build young fighters. Sunusi Shaibu Musa, Freedom Radio.
The global news is coming to you from Freedom Radio 99.5 FM. You can send your comments, opinions, and watch us live on Freedom Radio Nigeria on Facebook.com. You can get the link to the page on our website, freedomradio.nig.com. Welcome back. You still listen to Freedom Global News on 99.5 FM. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, yesterday warned that fuel scarcity is imminent over failure to pay marketers their bridging claims of 500 billion naira. Reports say that bridging claims is the cost of hauling petroleum products from refineries and depots to fuel stations. Addressing a news conference in Kano, the state's chairman of IPMAN, Alhaji Bashir Amalam, called on the federal government to prevail on the Nigerian midstream and downstream petroleum regulatory authority to pay its members. He said the debt had forced many IPMAN members out of business. He noted that since the merger of the Department of Petroleum Resources, the Petroleum Equalization Fund, and the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency into the NMDPRA, the agency had paid marketers only twice. Amalam called on the federal government to intervene before the situation degenerates into a serious fuel crisis spread to other parts of the country. On 10th May 1994, civil rights advocate Nelson Mandela was inaugurated as South Africa's first democratically elected president. Safarau Tijani Adam has more on this and other historical events.
Home former South African president and civil rights advocate Nelson Mandela dedicated his life to fighting for equality and ultimately helped topple South Africa's racist system of apartheid. True to his promise, Mandela stepped down in 1999. After one term as president, he continued to work with the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund he set up in 1995 and established the Nelson Mandela Foundation and the Mandela Road Foundation. Nelson Mandela, in his devotion to democracy, equality and learning, despite terrible provocation, he never answered racism with racism. His life is an inspiration to all who are oppressed and deprived and to all who are opposed to oppression and deprivation. He died at his home in Johannesburg on 5th December 2013. On this day in history, in 1872, Victoria Woodhull became the first woman nominated for the United States presidency. Victoria Cleveland Woodhull, later Victoria Woodhull Martin, who was born on September 23, 1838, was an American leader of the women's suffrage movement who ran for president of the United States in 1872 election. Woodhull was politically active in the early 1870s when she was nominated as the first woman candidate for the United States presidency. Woodhull was the candidate in 1872 from the Equal Rights Party, supporting women's suffrage and equal rights. Her running mate was abolitionist leader Frederick Douglass. She died on June 9, 1927. Sapra Utijan Adam, Freedom Radio.
And on business, we have Hauwa Adamu Kiyawa with updates.
The House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on the State of Refineries in Nigeria said it is compulsory for the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, to appear before it today. The committee had on April 21st, 2022, summoned Kyari, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva, and the management of Nigeria's refineries. Non-appearance by the stakeholders for the second time had botched the investigative hearing of the committee scheduled for March 31st, 2022, forcing the panel to summon the officials 3 weeks after. The committee, which condemned invitees for allegedly shunning a series of invitations to its investigative hearing, threatened to invoke legislative powers against them. Meanwhile, in a bid to fully digitalize operations of the Nigerian capital market, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, is proposing some guidelines that will enable investors in the capital market to do virtually everything on their internet-enabled appliances at their convenience. This was contained in a guideline on minimum operating standards for information technology for capital market operators, CMOS, recently exposed to the public. According to the SEC, the new regulatory framework undergoing review seeks to mandate compulsory adoption of information and communication technology, ICT, particularly web-based applications and devices for virtually capital market transactions. Hauwa Adamu Kiyawa, Freedom Radio.
And on the foreign scene, United States Director of National Intelligence says Washington believes Russian President Vladimir Putin is preparing for a long conflict in Ukraine and cautions a Russian victory in the country's eastern Donbass region may not end the war. The head of the United Nations Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine says that thousands more civilians have been killed in the country since the war began than the world body's official death toll of 3,381. The Finnish Parliament's Defense Committee recommends joining NATO before an official decision on membership is due in the coming days. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for the European Union to roll out a sixth package of sanctions against Russia, including an oil embargo. Ukraine's gas system operator, GTSOU, has said it would declare force majeure on the transportation of gas through the Soranivka entry point, with flows stopping on May 11th. And with this, we've come to the end of today's global news. But before we go, highlights of the major stories. The Independent National Electoral Commission has rejected an appeal by the 18 registered political parties through the Inter-Party Advisory Council for an extension of the deadline for the conduct of party primaries. The Senate today amended the Electoral Act 2022 to allow statutory delegates, all those elected, to participate and vote in the conventions, congresses, or meetings of political parties. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, yesterday warned that fuel scarcity is imminent over failure to pay marketers their bridging claims of 500 billion naira.
This is
Another foreign senior United States Director of National Intelligence says Washington believes Russian President Vladimir Putin is preparing for a long conflict in Ukraine and cautions a Russian victory in the country's eastern Donbas region will not end the war.
Global News.
On behalf of the entire production team, I am Hauwa Adamu Kiyawa. Have a wonderful evening.
Freedom, 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 freedom.